Hello and welcome to This is 65. My name is Erin Ackenheil and I own Blackpoint Insurance. At Blackpoint, we help Medicare beneficiaries nationwide learn about the A, B, C's, and D's of Medicare, and we help agents and brokers learn to launch, grow, and retain their businesses. Through this process, we meet some very amazing individuals, dynamic, smart people who are owning their own businesses, they're entrepreneurs, they're side hustlers, they're people in their Encore career, people who are doing tremendous good work in their community by volunteering or advocating for specific causes, authors, comedians, celebrity chefs, and more. You name it, we've done the interview. And I really love enjoying bringing all of these stories to all of you. And I'm super excited about today's guest. If you're like me, everybody loves a story of transformation. Today's guest, Mark Davis, is the epitome of transformation. In Mark's before stage, let's say, he was a man in his 30s, 368 pounds, struggling with his health and the healthcare system, not getting the support he needs. And now he's in a current stage where he's an 185-pound Ironman competitor. So talk about a transformation. This is major. So today I'm so excited to introduce Mark. He's going to tell us his inspirational story and how he learned from a compassionate physician, an exercise program, and better nutrition to get him on a life-changing path. He's an accomplished trainer, helping over 1,000 people meet their goals. He can connect with them where they are because he's been there and he brings his experience to the tough cases. So I am so excited, especially as we kick off 2024, to bring on health and fitness expert and motivator, Mark Davis. So welcome, Mark. Come on back from backstage and say hello to everybody.
Hi, everybody.
Thanks so much for joining. Yeah, exactly. Big hellos. We're really happy to have you on, Mark. This is really exciting to have you on. Your story is incredible. I loved reading about you and getting to know you, and I'm so glad to bring you to my audience today. So why don't you do that? Start us off. Tell us your story. What led you to where you were on your 30s, and how did you transform things to where you are now?
Well, growing up from birth to teenage years, I was an athlete. I was playing a lot of sports, basketball, football, and I ran track. And when I went out on my own, had my own condo, uh, that's when things started to go bad. I had a girlfriend totally dump me, which really upset me and set me off. And I started feeding my, you know, body with bad stuff. Like occasional beer I would have. I didn't have an alcohol problem, but I might as well have one because it was pretty serious. I was on antidepressants, getting regular, therapy. And one thing that set me off is when I was 34, when I started this journey, uh, I was getting a lot of support from people at work as I was losing the weight, and I was there for that 4 years after I made the decision to change my lifestyle. And I guess one specific incident that set me off was I was at Knott's Berry Farm, and they had this giant ride. It had a 20-foot restraining bar to restrain everybody. And when they tried to put it down, they couldn't put it down because my gut was out too far. So the kid said, "Sorry, sir, you have to get off." And I was humiliated, and
Yeah.
angry, but not at the kid. I was angry at myself. So they say that depression is anger turned inward. That was true in my case. So I stewed on that little point, and I, got appointed with a doctor, Dr. Deborah Gold at Kaiser San Francisco, and she was wonderful. I had some real bad doctors. Like one guy says, "Well, you're considerably overweight. Have you ever tried Slim Fast?"
Wow.
Yeah, I mean
How
that.
dismissive. I mean, come on.
Yeah, that was pretty bad. The other thing that would happen is, I was getting high blood pressure along with a bunch of other problems. But when you're 368 pounds, your arms is too big for the blood pressure cuff. So I remember a few times the nurse or somebody would say, hey, we need the obesity cuff over here, and
She would say, what, Mark?
we need the obesity cuff
Oh, wow.
or the fat cuff, and that was one thing that was bad about visiting doctors. The other thing
I
that,
just can't understand how they could be so lack all empathy and respect, right? I mean, that doesn't seem like that would help. It seems like it would really hinder you in getting better.
yeah, well, there are good doctors and there's bad doctors, and I think there's more good doctors than bad. But
Agreed.
I advise everybody out there watching this to, if you don't have a doctor, find out from your friends, you know, check out the websites and figure out who the good doctors are, and then make an appointment. That way, you have a good doctor on your team. If your health takes a bad turn, which it did in my case, but
So tell us a little bit more about this doctor you met and what was different about her and how that got you on the right track.
well, she advised me to get some exercise equipment that I could use consistently, and I also needed to get a scale because the scales they had at Kaiser, they would max out at 350. And that was another thing. They had me get up on the scale. And I was telling them it's up to 350. Why are you measuring this? So that was kind of demeaning also. But so Dr. Gold, recommended some exercise equipment and a scale, proper scale. So I went out and got it right away. I spent like $1,700 and got a life cycle. It's you know electronic exercise equipment, and then I also got the scale. And I found everybody supported. The guy that delivered the scale said to me that he got terminated from the army because he was too overweight. So he
A
was
lot
giving
of
me,
people could connect with your story.
yeah. Well, especially since they had that exercise bike there and had a scale. It's pretty obvious what it was trying to do.
Right, exactly.
And
Well, why do you think you were so motivated to do it? I mean, it seems like, you talked to her, she gave you this advice, you pretty much rushed out and got it. Like, what was driving that? Was that just your worries about your health, or what came underneath to get you going on that?
well, I was worried about my health, and I was also very sensitive and self-conscious about my weight. And as far as the health is concerned, I could feel my body shutting down. When I got to 330 pounds approximately, it's like a circuit breaker went off and everything started going bad. I got severe edema. I couldn't wear normal shoes. My feet were really swollen. And, I was both scared of what was happening. And also, there's the ego involved too. I was really angry about that roller coaster incident.
Right.
Yeah.
So all of
So,
that kind of led you to be motivated, and then just connecting with that right person got you on the right track. I've heard you say that the problem wasn't what you were eating, but what was eating you. What do you mean by that? And how did it help you kind of deal with the emotional side of eating?
well, I, I recognized after a couple of years of therapy that I needed this therapy to help me with my weight. And uh, you know, I needed to connect my weight to my psyche, and that was pretty tough at the beginning. I was an angry person, and I was still gaining weight after I gained therapy, and they were trying different antidepressants on me, and they got better ones now. But boy, the ones they had back then, there's side effects and everything. So I would try something, and it's not like they could take a blood draw and then say, okay, you've got depression, you got this type of depression.
Right.
It's a qualitative analysis. So,
It's a lot to go
once,
through. Right. Trial and error, trying to find that combination.
yeah, and I didn't like myself. I really, really didn't like myself. And, as far as being suicidal, I mean, I thought about it, but I think even above that, what I thought about is, yeah, God, do I have to be on this earth this long? I was like, wanting to die. But what turned me around was the roller coaster incident. And then at the beginning of my weight loss journey, my dad was a huge influence. He was dying of cancer. And he was the first one to notice that I lost weight. When you're 368 pounds, you could lose 20 pounds or so, and nobody will notice. But he commented on my weight, and he said, "Well, that's really good." And then he got up from his bed at home, and he was walking toward the closet, not to trip over all the cords they had in it, And he pulled out this shirt. It was a Mexican Guayabera shirt, and he motioned for me to try it on. So I started to put it on, and I couldn't button it. It was too small. And I said, "Dad, it doesn't fit." And he looked me right in the eye, and he said, "It will."
Wow, how motivating.
Yeah, and
That's incredible.
he died a couple of weeks after that. And a lot of people have that happen to them, and they don't get the message. But I definitely got the message, and I had that shirt, and I kept that shirt whenever I felt like I couldn't do it. I didn't have what it takes. I would think about that shirt. So ultimately, what happened is the shirt ended up being too big for me. And
Wow.
well,
You're like, take this thing in.
at that point in time, I could tell this stuff now because I couldn't then. But my waist, I had a 54 waist and a 64 chest.
Wow.
Yeah, I still have that suit. It could fit like three people inside that suit.
Wow, that's unbelievable. Mark, I mean, when you get to that point of sort of self-loathing and what you went through with the breakup and everything like that, you're eating for a reason. Something's affecting you inside that, is attacking you kind of thing. And it sounds like your dad was the source of motivation, but, you know, what was your deep root cause? Like what was causing that? And have you been able to get past it and love yourself?
Yeah, well, I did, and I did lots of private therapy with one-on-one, and I did group therapy where there'd be 8 people, approximately equally divided between male and female. And it was that was something that I had to figure out because I would go through yo-yo diets and yo-yo changes in my body, and I had to figure out how to be more consistent. And it really started with liking myself. And like if I see somebody from high school on the street, I'd like turn the other way or hide. And I go to Rochester Big and Tall, and then I'd buy a suit. And when I came outside, I'd actually take the bag that the suit came in and turn it over so you couldn't see it came from Rochester. But
You
yeah,
had a lot to work through there.
there was a lot, and the guys at Rochester actually, I should give them a shout out too because they're real nice about helping me find suits and stuff. Because you go in when you're weight 368, you go into a clothing store, you're going to get noticed real quick, and
Be a lot of judgment.
yeah, a lot of judgment, and it's a good place to go. I actually saw Willie McCovey, the Giants' first baseman, there one time.
Wow, cool.
Yeah, so that was a cool thing about going there.
Yeah.
Uh, and you know, I had all kinds of indicators that I needed to lose weight. Like, for example, I decided I wanted to get a private pilot's license. So I booked a lesson over the phone, and when I showed up at the airport, there's my instructor, and he looks me up and down, and he says, "Oh, we need a bigger plane." And you know, he,
Wow.
he was serious, so we got a bigger plane. But like I had a car that the driver's seat broke. It broke where you come back like this, and I actually asked the mechanic guy in the shop how this happened, and you know, he didn't roll his eyes. He said, "Well, it's you're taking up too much of the seat." But you know, I had other stuff like I adopted the nom de guerre, the warrior name ex Big Man, because I'd go everywhere I'd go. People actually come up to me and go, "Hey, Big Man." I'd be at a Giants game and they'd say, "Hey, Big Man," and I hated that.
Yeah.
So I made X Big Man. I got a logo, looks kind of like a superhero.
Perfect. And
Yeah.
that's so what you are. So, Mark, when I think about your experiences, especially early on when you were seeing providers that were really insensitive. I mean, some of the stories, of the blood pressure cuff and just, the way they would speak to you and treat you. And I feel like a lot of trainers, educators, healthcare providers, it's kind of like, well, just don't eat that or try Slim Fast or whatever, all these quick hit kinds of things. And as you described, there's good ones and bad ones, right? But I just
Yeah.
feel like being overweight is such an epidemic, right? I mean, it's across our country, it's everywhere. What could be done to help providers come along, I guess, and support people in need better? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think they should have sensitivity training. You know, I mean, when a person weighs 368, they come to a doctor. They're just really scared about it, and they're bummed out about it too. And at the health club I worked at, very rarely I would get somebody that was close to what I was at 368, and they would have to walk into this club, and everybody would notice them. I had a guy I was training one time, and there was a woman at the opposite end of the weight room, and she was fairly overweight, and she was doing weights. And this guy that I was training says, "Oh, would you look at that?" He was being real mean about it. And I just said, "Hey, Mr. Universe yourself."
Right. 100%. I mean, and people just like lie in judgment, right? I think the sensitivity training is a great idea. And I feel like that would help a lot. And just as a society, appreciating people actually trying to help themselves too. She's there working out, trying her best, and people are making fun of her. That's a terrible, terrible scenario. So I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Now, oh, go ahead.
they have a chain of health clubs here, and they advertise regularly on the radio, and they say they're no judgment zone, which that's a great thing saying it's no judgment zone.
That's how it needs to be, doesn't it? So,
Yeah.
now, Mark, tell me a little about your background. I mean, you weren't always a fitness guru and motivator, and even when you went on this journey, you still were doing the CPA path. I can't think of anything farther away from motivator, trainer, all that kind of thing. And so, how did you know that it was really your calling to move away from being a CPA? What happened, and how did you end up knowing you weren't really on the right path?
Well, I worked at PG&E, and I was there 13 and a half years.
Wow.
But I worked in the group that managed the nuclear fuel for Diablo Canyon nuclear fuel plant, and well, that was another thing. When I was really overweight, we'd have the company jet, and they'd jot down what your weight was. They're trying to balance the jet, and I did not ride a jet for a long time. But so I never had a passion for accounting. It's just something that college counselor said to me. He says, "Well, you be an accountant, you'll be always employed." But
True.
yeah,
That
well, originally I wanted to be an FBI agent,
would have
and
been cool.
well, all their agents are either lawyers or CPAs.
Ah, interesting. I did not know
Yeah.
that.
So, I went ahead and got the accounting degree, and I did interview with the FBI, but ultimately I decided not to do it. I wanted to stay in San Francisco where I was born and raised. But I remember being in meetings and just how boring it was sometimes talking about figures. We actually got in a meeting where they were arguing about the size of a margin, and that argument went on for an hour and a half. And I'm sitting there and I'm just thinking, boy, I don't need this. I got to,
This is
uh,
not my passion, right?
yeah. So, you know, uh, it, long after I started working at PG&E, they had layoffs, and because they're cutting back at Diablo Canyon, and I got a phone call on my day off, and my boss telling me that they're laying me off.
Mm.
So I was freaked out about that. But the next day, I went into the office, and I found out that I could either try to get a job somewhere else in the company, or I could take the package, and the package was a year and 3/4 pay.
Wow,
So
that was
yeah,
good. That's a way to
yeah,
launch.
yeah. So I thought, there's a message here for me. I mean, God's like telling me to go out there and do some good. And I had an athletic background, as I said earlier. So I decided to do it the right way. I wasn't going to do these courses that are, take home books or something. I wanted to do something substantial. So UC Berkeley Extension had a program at the time all about exercise. It was like 10 course program. So I did that. I learned a lot. I studied exercise physiology and anatomy, and what goes on with the heart and diabetes and all that other stuff. And when I was done with the class, uh, the professor I had, she was an executive at the San Francisco Bay Club, and I never told her about my weight during the whole class. And like on the final class, I walked up to her and I showed her a picture of me when I was at 368. And I said, that's how I used to be. And I'm looking to be a personal trainer. So she facilitated that. She referred me to a guy at the Bay Club named Dwayne Franks. Great guy. He's a fitness manager. And he was also an Ironman triathlete. And he's the one that got me into doing triathlons. And that took quite a bit too, because once again, I had something I had to overcome. Ironman is like 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and a 26.2 marathon.
You're hurting me already, Mark. That sounds crazy, but like obviously you pulled it off in record style, right?
Yeah, well, the first one I did or attempted to do, they have a bike cutoff and a run cutoff. You have to make the bike cutoff or you're disqualified. You're off. I missed the bike cutoff by 5 minutes, and boy, I was bummed about that. But once again, the ego that I had and the anger, I turned on myself and I go, I got to do this. I got to do this.
It fueled you to be successful the next time, right?
Yeah, but I had to learn how to swim, and I got pushed in a pool when I was a toddler and I was drowning.
Oh no!
Yeah, my grandfather pushed me, and he thought that would be the way I would learn.
Wow, that's so scary.
Yeah, and so I had a phobia about deep water.
Can't blame
And
you.
in the first triathlon I did, you probably heard of it. It's Escape from Alcatraz.
I've heard of it.
Yeah. Well, you get these giant boats they have for tourists or parties, and they have it loaded with triathletes in their wetsuits. And then it's like being in the military paratrooping. All of a sudden they'll say, okay, next 5, line up, go, 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 and you're jumping. And I remember I jumped off, and I never jumped off a boat in my life like that. I started swimming, and one thing that really helped me was I had a wetsuit on. Everybody wears a wetsuit because it's so cold there, but the wetsuit gives you a lot of buoyancy. So I swam in, and I had a pretty good swim time for me. For me it was good, not for other people, but
all about the personal best, right?
yeah. And so I did the swim okay, and then I got on my bike. I started doing the bike course, and there's a point where you come out of Golden Gate Park and you make a sharp right. And as I was pedaling my bike, I heard like some metal sound, like metal hitting the asphalt, a ping sound. I'm wondering what that was. Next thing I know, my foot is loose.
Oh no!
What happened was I was losing my crank, losing my pedal on the bike. So because that was an area where they had extreme activity, they had a lot of police there. And I laid my bike down, and I'm looking at this. What am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, I heard this voice say, "Does any of this stuff help you?" And I look, and there's a San Francisco Police Department motorcycle captain. And so anyway, he got 2 of his guys, they're big SWAT team guys, and they held on my bike, and he handed me a riot baton. And I put the pedal on. I started hitting it with the riot baton as hard as I could. And on the third one, it came in there. And that happened about the halfway point. And when I made it in, the pedal fell off just when I got into the finish.
Did you still make the time that time? Were you able to get the time on that run?
Oh yeah, well my time was really slow because I was probably struggling what to do with that bike for about 20, 30 minutes. The cops, they weren't there right away. I think the guy's name was Captain Roy Sullivan. I wrote a letter to the police chief thanking the cop, and he wrote me back. But so I was hooked after I did Escape from Alcatraz. And then I told you the next year I attempted Ironman Canada, didn't make it. And the following year, this is on my third try. The third try is supposed to be the charm. It was in Utah, and there's Provo Lake. And at the beginning of the swim, there was like swells of water, like 15 to 20 feet. And I was out there trying to swim, and I'm swallowing a lot of water. And I looked around, and a bunch of people are getting out of there quick, and they're getting up, standing on these rocks. I'm going, why are they getting out? This is supposed to be a triathlon.
Oh no,
But
what was it?
well, once again, it was my ego. I was determined to do the swim, and this guy in a jet ski roars up to me, and he's blowing his whistle like a cop. And he said, "The swim's been terminated. I've been instructed to take you out of the water." And I said, "I didn't come all this way not to do the swim. I'm going to do the swim. So just point the way, and I'll go there." So he pointed it towards there was actually a huge U.S. Coast Guard helicopter, and they were getting people out of the water that way, rescue. But the water calmed down, and I managed to make it to shore. And then they paused the entire triathlon for 2 hours trying to figure out how they should do it. And they ended up having us go to a half Ironman distance. And and also this is somebody drowned during that swim.
Oh no. Oh, that's so scary.
Yeah, I cried a few times thinking about that guy as I was running. But
Yeah.
so it was like came into the football stadium in Provo. I sprinted to the finish line, which is something I always do. That's my signature, sprinting the last 50 yards. And my wife got a picture of me. And then there was this kid that seemed really shy, and he was like a 20-year-old version of myself. And he came up to me, and he wanted to get this picture taken with me. And that was kind of like my Mean Joe Green, Coke commercial. Like, hey kid, he throws a jersey. I didn't have a jersey throw to him, but yeah, that stuck with me. I still keep in contact with the kids just every once in a while.
Right. Such a big connection point. Sounds like that was all around, an incredible experience and some highs and some serious lows too. That took a lot.
And I did a lot of media too. The Ironman Utah, that was the first one they were doing. They ended up inviting me to the press conference, and I sat there telling my story, and I ended up on the front page of the paper on a 20 to 30-minute radio show and TV. And I think I actually got more press than the professional triathletes got.
Well, you deserve it with a story like yours.
Well,
Marco, I wanted to ask you a question, just kind of reverse gears a little bit. We have some physician experts on one of our shows. We have Ensure Your Health, which is physician community comes and talks, and we had a bariatric surgeon specialist come on who actually specializes in weight loss in general. And one of the things we learned from him was, how being overweight causes so many different conditions. And he actually considers obesity or being overweight a chronic condition. And I was just curious, you know, do you consider it a chronic condition? What would be your perspective on that?
when you say chronic condition, you mean it's something that goes on, right?
It is like, so it's kind of like, I liken it to how he was describing it. Like we consider alcoholism, a disease, right? And so if somebody is recovering alcoholic and hasn't drank in years, they're not drinking anymore, but it's still a chronic condition that ails them. And, they need to be mindful of that and that type of thing. So I liken it that he's looking at obesity the same way. And I'm just curious, is that your perspective as well? Or do you think you can kick it and be done? Or is it something that you always have to be mindful of?
Well, let me tell you, I told you I got a lot of media. I got contacted by the producer of Oprah Winfrey about being on the show. And, I got this voicemail and they said, yeah, this is Oprah Winfrey's producer. They gave me a phone number and I call him right away. And this was like at 2 p.m. in the afternoon. 4 p.m. they had a courier come out to get all my TV stuff, all the tapes I had on me and everything.
Wow.
But I mentioned the chronic condition. I am not getting on the show. The guy that did get on the show lost something like 330 pounds in 1 year. Now, let me tell you something. That's the opposite of chronic condition. You don't want to lose weight that fast because, you're going to have a lot of problems. You're not going to be eating properly. And so I wish the guy the best. I've tried to contact him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he bounced back to where he was. So yeah, I
It's
mean,
a slow process, and you have to develop the habits and the skills and do the work, it sounds
yeah,
like.
I lost my brother in December,
I'm
and
sorry.
he was overweight his entire life. Well, not entire. I mean, he started getting chubby when he was 10, but by the time you know he got huge, he's shorter than me, but he weighed more than I did, and he just couldn't get with it. You know, I mean, he was with a bunch of friends at a sushi place, and they asked him to leave. These guys were eating too much sushi.
Wow. It was like an all you can eat kind of thing, or
Yeah, yeah.
oh God.
And at my brother's memorial, I asked one of his best friend. I said, "Is that true? Did that happen?" He goes, "Yeah, that happened."
Wow.
But yeah, it goes along with a lot of the chronic diseases.
I'm so
Kind of,
sorry to hear about your brother. That must be really hard to cope with, especially when you know, see that it can be different too, with the right support and help.
yeah, it can be different, and the hard part is taking that first step. And the first step I took is earlier I said I bought a life cycle, and I got on that life cycle and turned it on and started pedaling. And I was in such bad shape that I could only pedal it for 2 minutes, and I had to get off. And but where I succeeded, a lot of people don't succeed, is I didn't give up because you can't think like, oh, 2 minutes is not going to do me any good. You got to figure out that you do 2 minutes and then you get on it, and it's next is 3 minutes and you get on it. Pretty soon it's a
All
half
those
hour.
are better than 0 minutes, right? So it's like a slow build, and you did it. You're incredible. This is incredible to hear from you on this, Mark. And I know now, I mean, after you kind of retired from the CPA career, you went on this journey with the Bay Club and got connected with doing the training the right way, and really became, you know, an advocate, personal trainer, coach of hundreds and hundreds of people, and help put them on the path of good health. And so, what I'm curious about is if people want to connect with you to get started, what's your typical client profile? And then, how is it best for them to get in touch with you?
Well, I should say, as far as typical client, I train different types of clients at the Bay Club, all the way from beginning swimming to guys that were doing marathons and doing Ironman triathlons. And the target I really wanted to go on, I never was able to do it, is I wanted to train somebody that was my size and get them down to, you know, and unfortunately, that never happened. I told you that this guy was very brave. I met him in the lobby of the Bay Club, and you just tell looking at him that he's kind of looking around like this, and he's extremely self-conscious. And that didn't work out actually, but I have trained other people. Like people bring their kids to me, and you know, I would train older adults. The oldest one I trained was 86.
Wow.
Yeah, and but I don't train people that are star athletes. I train real people that have real big problems.
Right. And you kind of coach them through with the lifestyle, the exercise program, the connection of personal to figure this thing out. Mark, do people have to be a member of the Bay Club to schedule a consultation with you?
Well, I'm no longer with the Bay Club, but they should go directly to my website, like we said earlier, www.xbigman.com.
Okay, so if I go on to www.xbigman.com, then what would the process be, Mark? Would I fill out some information about myself and you would get back to me, or how would that process get started?
Well, I would, meet them in person or on the telephone. Actually, I trained before Zoom was invented. I trained people online. One guy was up in Canada. Uh, so yeah, the first thing I do, if I got somebody that had a lot of weight to lose, I do a health assessment of the person and have them go to his doctor just to check in. And my experience with doctors has been, I've had doctors as clients, but I never once had a doctor tell any client of mine, no, you shouldn't exercise. Don't do it.
Don't come across that very often, right? Maybe
Yeah,
it's like be careful, but definitely go for it, right?
yeah, the doctors would be thrilled if their patients exercised. Um, but yeah, there was one guy that just wasn't going to make it. He was a doctor. He ended up having a tummy tuck or the bariatric surgery, and there's a lot of side effects with that. They mentioned that to me as an option when I was really overweight, and I would have to lose like 40 or 50 pounds before they could do the operation.
Right. I've heard people gain a lot of weight back after bariatric surgery as well. Is that because they don't deal with the emotional side of things, or why does that happen?
Yeah, they just figured to leave it up to the surgeon to put the staples in him. And I had this one client, and he was a medical doctor, and he was a CEO of a large HMO, and he was really overweight. And a lot of times he wanted to get special surgery, and in order to do that, he had to get statements from like his doctor and his personal trainer. So I'm against bariatric surgery, but this guy's case, I figured, okay, let's do it. What I do remember, I didn't put this in the letter, but what I remember is he missed at least half of the training sessions. You blow them off, and you just got to be consistent because that tummy tucks. It's not tummy tuck. I'm sorry, it's tummy staple. There's a lot of people doing that now,
Yeah.
and it's got like I said, it's got side effects. You get flatulence, you burp a lot, and Al Roker, the Today Show, was talking about that because he had that operation.
Yeah, it definitely has its impact and feel like, you still have to do the work to change things. Otherwise you'll find yourself back in that situation. Um, you know, I just wanted to kind of ask you, I know you've developed a sort of beginning exercise program. Can you tell us a little bit about that program? Is it for all ages? How do people sign up?
Well, once again, they go to my website, and they email me, mark@xbigman.com. And as far as the beginning thing, when I take them out to the exercise floor, we have a lot of different. I'm out at the Bay Club now, but we had a lot of machines, and I would start them out on machines. But if somebody's really obese, I have had a couple of clients that were so big they couldn't do the machine. They're too big for trying to get in there and sit on the seat. But I start them off slow, and I show them how to do the exercise and do it in good form, so they benefit from it. And they don't injure themselves. And then I'd also talk to them about what they're doing when they're not around me, and talk about the eating and the doing aerobic exercise of some sort. And
Right.
when you're real big, once again, it's people have an all or nothing mentality, and somebody will go outside and run, and they get winded after 1 minute, and they give it up. But you got to stay with it.
A
But,
little at a time.
yeah, and a lot of the larger clients that have them on a treadmill, uh, and we have it at a slight angle upward because treadmill actually, you can't see this, but it's actually a slight decline, and that's
Oh,
hard. That's hard on the knees. So I have them use the treadmill. I do remember one time I was doing pro bono training for this guy that was a, a bishop of a 5,000 member black congregation in a Baptist church, Reverend Green, and he was great. But one time the Reverend wanted to get up on a treadmill, and I was trying to talk him out of it, and he got up on it, and it just went bam, it
oh
stopped.
no. Oh,
Well, but I was just thankful that happened because boy, he could have gotten really hurt.
right. Oh, yeah, definitely. I'm curious, Mark. I mean, you're talking about, you did some things virtually even before Zoom, and you did some things, in person where you're putting people on machines and helping them through. But today, with your business, do you see most clients virtually? How do you get connected with most of your clients, and where do you take care of them?
Well, that's something I'm still working on. Uh, I have a Facebook page, not the personal one. I have a personal one too, but I got the one where I'm a athlete,
The
and
business page.
Yeah. So, I'd like to contact these people, and training them virtually was great. NBC profiled me on Escape from Alcatraz. I got 3.5 minutes airtime, more than any of the pros once again. And uh, after that, I actually had people coming to me at the Bay Club that saw me on TV, and people come and tell me their story. And there's this one that was absolutely beautiful, 27-year-old woman, and her boyfriend, prior to his wife, made a crack about her weight, and that set her off. So she was coming to me for help, which is really, think she could have helped me more. But you know, I also speak Spanish, and I did an interview in Spanish. It's up on my website.
It's amazing. One of my life goals, speak Spanish myself, so I admire that so much.
Se puede hacerlo. Sí se puede.
Perfecto.
Yeah. But I found out that one of my clients, I just happened to mention that, and she said to me, she goes, "Yeah, that's why I came here at the Bay Club and signed up with you, because I figured they have somebody like you working at the Bay Club, they're doing something right."
100%. That's
So,
amazing. I guess like one thing I wanted to ask you, Mark, I feel like, a lot of people, probably yourself back in the day, and a lot of people I talk to, probably every friend and family member that I know, a lot of people are involved in sort of yo-yo dieting and exercise, both diet and exercise. I did some, I didn't. Maybe it's kind of speaks to your all or nothing mentality. What advice would you have for getting people off of the roller coaster of all that and moving towards true lifestyle changes? What would you advise?
well, I would say dump the supplements, because that includes Slim Fast. They really don't do any good long term, and I do not sell supplements to my website. That's one thing I'll never do. But they need to make exercise a regular part of their daily lifestyle, and maybe park the car further away from the health club and get additional walking that way, and taking the stairs instead of walking, uh, like on an elevator. And actually, I was working for a CPA firm, and during busy season, I lost 7 pounds just taking the stairs, not the elevator. So the key to yo-yo dieting is you get food that you like to eat, and you control it with portion control. But uh, the yo-yo dieting, people get these god awful things to eat. Like I never eat grapefruit. You know, that was bad. When some things I would eat when I was sort of my weight, I'd eat a can of tuna, and I got a hatred for tuna after a while. It
Tuna
felt,
never made a comeback after that.
I recently came back, and I got a Betty Crocker recipe to make tuna fish sandwiches, and I made tuna fish sandwiches. It was great. So I'm back in love with tuna fish
Tuna
sandwich.
got back in the circulation. It took years, right? So, yeah,
Yeah,
I think that has a lot to do with it. People get so restricted, and then they come to hate those foods. It just feels negative, and then what I'm hearing you say too is just small little life size change, or lifestyle changes make a big impact. Take the stairs, like just walk a little further. Walk to the store versus drive or whatever. Like little things can add up to meaningful results. So that's really awesome advice.
yeah. Well, you just got to make it your daily lifestyle. And I had this one client. He was a large guy. He was kind of in my neighborhood of 368, and we were working out in the weight room, and he was really discouraged. He's telling me that he wasn't making enough progress. And so I walked him over to the weight rack where the dumbbells were, and I said, I pointed to the dumbbell. I said, pick that one up and hold it, and now walk this way, walk this way. Go ahead and put it back on the rack. And that was 80 pounds. He lost
Wow.
he lost 80 pounds, and he forgot that he lost 80 pounds. So I said to him, just imagine you got this weight tied to you, and you got to go upstairs. You got to, you can't get a booth in a restaurant. You're too big, and you got to celebrate your successes too. That helps with yo-yo dieting.
So inspirational, Mark. I swear that. what you've been able to do for yourself and do for others, and how you can get people to see that perspective. It's incredible. I want to just encourage everybody out there. I've appreciated having Mark on the show today. Just want to remind everybody to find Mark. He did not like the name Big Man, but I bet he likes the one X Big Man, right? That X made it a big difference. Visit him at xbigman.com. You can schedule a consultation with Mark, hear his story, see his story there, and just see how to get in touch with him and see if he might be a right fit for you in your diet and exercise journey. Because I have found him an incredible motivator. His story is dynamic. Mark, I know there's big things ahead for you. So I'm so grateful that you were able to take the time to be with us on the show today. We really appreciate you. Thanks so much.
Great. Thank you.